I'd better be going, Lilly says. Farewell, Hisao. Bye. Whether it's out of habit or just a stubborn desire for one small fragment of normality, I hold my hand up in farewell just as I always do. At least I'm consciously aware that I'm doing it now. I think I'm beginning to see a bigger picture than I ever have before, not only with Lilly, but also my life ahead. The chains of my past are finally breaking. Walking up the now slightly more familiar corridor of the girls' dormitories, I can hear the faint sound of laughter coming from up ahead. It doesn't take long to identify the source as Lily's room, though the deep timbre of the female voice unmistakably belongs not to her, but to her sister. I rap my knuckles on the door with the usual 3 light taps, my hand barely retreating as the door swings open. Hey, Hisao. Hey, hello, Lilly, Hanako. Hanako looks up tentatively, her hands buried in her oversized pink nightgown. From her side, Lilly turns sideways toward the direction of my voice and smiles. It would be a flagrant lie to say I dislike the sight of her in those pajamas. I catch Akira giving me a sidelong look with a knowing grin, to which I reply with a sharp glare. She takes the hint, shrugs, and walks back to the low table in the center of the room. As I go to join her, Lily gives me a nod of greeting and starts pouring me a cup of tea. It's nice to see you again, Hanako, I say. You've been getting around recently. Lily wears a look of concentration as the light brown liquid, carefully measured by her finger as always, flows from the teapot into the cup. It seems Hanako is taking up helping one of the people in your class with the newspaper club, Lily says. Naomi, I think? Hanako gives an affirmative nod. Even after spending about 2 months in the class, I still have trouble remembering the names of those students I rarely talk with. It takes me a few mental contortions to connect the name with a face, but I eventually remember the girl that sits beside Hanako in the back of the class. Naomi Inoue, a fairly average-looking girl except for her bleached blonde hair. Given her upbeat and straightforward personality, Naomi may have seen an opening to poach Hanako for her club when she inquired about joining one. Either way, it's nice to see Hanako broadening her horizons. When I first met her, the idea of her joining a club with anyone but Lily would have seemed utterly laughable. That'd explain how busy you've been, I say. Enjoying it? It's really interesting, she says. As always, Hanako's far from being talkative. Some things never change, and it seems that Hanako's personality is one of them. She'll likely always be one to shy away from being overly social. Warned by the sound of crockery against the table as Lily gently places my drink in front of me, I thank her and take a long sip. Hanako and Lily are tending to their own, and Akira is quaffing a mug of strong-smelling black coffee. You're a lucky bastard, Hisao, Akira says. Huh? I can't help grimacing at her teasing smile, still visible around the edges of the mug pressed to her lips. Seeing my sister in her pajamas, there's a lot of men out there who'd like to be where you are. I've seen a lot more than that of her, not that I'd admit it. Akira, Lily says. Hey, I'm just teasing. She leans over to me as much as she can, whispering with a sly grin written on her face. And Hanako, too, you perv. Hey, it was her idea, I say. Hanako stammers. We both look over to her, her face turned to the ground and her hands fidgeting in the lap of her nightgown. If it's Hisao, I don't mind, she finally says. Ah, this could be bad. I know Hanako's altogether too innocent to bother reading too much into such a thing, but the expression Akira directs at me is positively stormy. Akira, please, Lilly says. It seems that she can sense Akira's suddenly change in aura just as well as I, even without seeing it for herself. Akira slowly looks away from me like an attack dog leashed by its owner in the nick of time. I breathe a sigh of relief. I can't think of a more appropriate time to try and change topics than around now. If you don't mind me asking, Akira, what do you do for a living? I've never seen you out of that suit. Think I'm a lot to do with yourself after school's over, eh? She answers. I'm a lawyer. For the most part, I work in the legal department of the Japanese branch of our family's company. The most boring possible answer, I suppose. Law's a pretty dry topic to most people. Kinda, I admit. Oi, you're not supposed to agree, she says. Lily gives an amused giggle while holding her teacup and saucer. Hanako quickly joins her. This friendly atmosphere between everyone is something I'd missed while Lily and Akira were on their trip. While the dealings I had with Hanako didn't help, I think just not having Lily around changed the mood. It's nice to be back, Lily says. I missed you, Hisao, and you too, Hanako. Same goes for the both of us, I say. I'm guessing your classmates were happy to see you back. In a manner of speaking, yes, she answers. Akira's amused snort shows she's well aware of Lily's attitude towards such figures of speech. I imagine she'd have to be, given how long they've been together. Did you have fun in Scotland? Hanako asks. For a moment I wonder why she's asking, it having been quite a while since I came back, but then I remember everything that happened. We simply not had time to look back, what with the exams and with our Hokkaido trip. Lily's face goes distant for a moment, and the fact that Akira's first reaction is to look over to her sister doesn't escape me. Nonetheless, she quickly collects herself. It was nice. We hadn't met our family in such a long time, so it was a wonderful reunion. Yeah, I guess that's right, Akira says. Her house being beachside was the best part, though. From her dismissive tone, I get the feeling Akira doesn't like their family as much as Lily does. You only like that because you finally had time to play around, Lily says. Just because I'm the better swimmer. I don't take after the athletic side of the family, that's all, Lily retorts. Well, you can take heart in the fact that you got the height genes at least. And the bust genes, she says. That's not really the right kind of thing to say around others. Though Lily pretends to scold Akira, she does so with a unmistakably slightly cheeky grin on her face. I doubt Akira really minds that, judging from her nonchalant expression. While I don't either, Hanako's looking down and blushing furiously beside me. The sisters' antics aside, their parents really do live a bourgeoisie lifestyle. It seems utterly divorced from the life that Lily and Akira have lived until now. I suppose practicality must have made the decision for them. To have come from such a wealthy and well-connected lineage only adds to the almost noble air Lily seems to have, though. It's a small wonder none of it seems to have rubbed off onto Akira. They really are as little alike as siblings could be. Their only similarity seems to be their shared confidence, which can be both endearing and a headache at times. Most of the night continues much the same, with Hanako eventually leaving the Sato sisters and me to ourselves as she heads back to her dorm room for a rest. For a while, only the barely audible sound from Lily's teacup and saucer can occasionally be heard as she slowly drinks. The silence is strained as Lily and I wait for the elephant in the room to be addressed. "So," Akira begins. Lily dutifully puts her cup down, giving her sister her undivided attention. With Lily and me on one side of the low table and Akira at the other, this almost feels like a judge passing down a verdict. "I hear that you two are going out now," she says. I glance sideways at Lily to confirm her as the source of Akira's knowledge. She gives a gentle nod to Akira, which I mirror in affirmation. Deciding this is the proper time and place to do so, and Akira being the closest figure to a parent Lily's had for much of her life, I bow deeply with my hands on the floor before me and my head very nearly the same. "I'll take good care of your sister, Akira. I promise you." "See," Lily says, "he's a lovely young gentleman." She must have heard my voice coming from a lower position than usual. I slowly bring myself back up, my eyes tentatively looking at Akira from under my brow. To tell the truth, I very much doubt my suited judge will raise any objections. She's very definitely the type to make her disapproval with others well known, something that lends her a measure of respect in my eyes. "The old-fashioned kind, huh?" she says. "Well, he's the kind of person I guess you'd go for." "I don't have a problem with it, and I wish you two the best. Even if I didn't like it, I really couldn't do anything anyway," she adds. I offer a nod of appreciation to her as Lily gives a small sigh of relief, likely more out of duty than any actual belief Akira might have had any problems with us being together. "I do wonder, though," Akira continues, "how's the rest of the family taking it? Particularly the part residing at Yamaku. Have you told her?" Smiles turn to grimaces as Akira grins downright evilly. Those closest know how to twist the knife best, after all. "Putting up with it may be the best term for the situation," Lily answers. "Don't you agree, Hisao?" "Yeah, that sounds about right. At least she's being reasonable about it." "Good to hear," Akira answers. "That girl can be a handful at the best of times." We sent a few messages back and forth during and just after the trip, and she was already busting my chops for seeing my boyfriend when we came back, after leaving Hideaki for so long. She really does care for the little guy. I cast my mind back to Shizune's odd reaction after telling her about our relationship, but decide not to bring it up. It's no doubt simply born of their mutual antipathy, and Akira's comments only back that up. "Well then, that's settled," she said. "Gotta get to work early tomorrow, so I'd better be off." She rises from the table with a grunt, her hand on her knee to push herself up. I just notice Akira's eyes lingering on Lily for a couple of seconds before turning away as she begins to take her leave. After she walks out the door, she stops and looks up thoughtfully before turning to us one last time. "Oh yeah, I almost forgot to tell you. Use protection. Every time." I gag violently on the tea in my mouth. Contrary to my own, Lily's composure holds perfectly, as she seems entirely unfazed. I'm kind of impressed. "We are. Don't worry," she says. "Atta girl. Sees yas." And with that, she turns and strides away, a hand held high as she disappears into the darkened hallway, closing the door behind her. The most reaction I can muster is flopping forwards onto the table, completely drained of energy and truly exhausted by her. Lily's ability to hold her own against that suited devil is something I admire. She really is incredibly blunt, I say. I don't think I'll ever be able to keep up with your sister's energy. As I feel Lily's soft hand come to rest on my own, I roll my head to the side to see her gently smiling. For a long time, we simply sit beside each other silently. Given her unquestionably unusual height, she is pretty much exactly as tall as I am, probably a couple of centimeters higher, if anything. Like this, she appears even taller. The feeling of her pale, soft hand against mine is a pleasant one, as is the sight of the thin silken pajamas she wears, showing her curves and collarbone. You do get on well, though, she answers, even if you do say that. I guess. You know, you two are a lot more alike than I first thought when I met you. Then it's a good thing I quickly stopped you from going after her, isn't it? Though she jokes about it, my assessment of my inability to keep up with Akira, either physically or mentally, was quite in earnest. Lily's slow-paced and ladylike, almost motherly nature is perhaps the single thing that helped me most in my first weeks at Yamaku. Come to think of it. Wait, I say. Since when were we using protection? As I give a curious look to my side, Lily's cheeks puff out as she huffs at me. Unlike you, I remembered. The packet is in the cupboard next to the sink. So, I'm not the only one of us that takes a pill. In hindsight, I feel rather thoughtless for not remembering it all and leaving it to Lily. Looking over to the cupboard she mentions, I notice again the knee-high piles of books around us that were here the other times I'd visited. For the most part, they're lined up against the wall to give a little more room around the table. Why don't you get a bookshelf for your books, I ask. It's odd to see books just piled around, especially given that your room looks so neat and orderly otherwise. They're easier to find this way, she answers. I know exactly which pile each book is in. Wouldn't you still know that after putting each set on a different shelf? That may be, but... So she's not immune to bouts of laziness after all. You have so many of them, I continue. It's kind of a shame we can't share our book sets despite both of us reading so much. She gives a short giggle. Come to think of it, I say, why do you order your books through Yuko? I imagine there'd be plenty of sites that you could order books in Braille from, especially in English Braille. There are a lot of text-to-speech programs, too. She turns her head slightly away from me, which strikes me as somewhat surprising. I'm just not all that good with computers, she says. I'm all right with typewriters and braillers, but that's about it. Her tone almost makes me chuckle. She's a prideful person, so admitting something like that must be difficult. So, Lily's the low-tech kind of person. Given her old-fashioned personality, it's not really a stunning surprise. I wouldn't worry about it, I say. A lot of people aren't really that good with them, so it's not that unusual. That unusual, Lily says. Now she's even more depressed. I feel like I'm twisting the knife rather than healing her wounds. With a bit of squirming, I shuffle my way closer to her, tentatively putting one hand around her waist to hug her. I'm still not really used to this kind of physical affection, but Lily seems to like it. Lily smiles as she turns to face me, a kiss being the reward for giving in to her. She draws me in, brushing my upper lip with hers before pressing against both. This way, every one of my senses is filled with her. The barely perceptible scent of her hair, her taste as her tongue fleetingly touches mine, the tenderness of her lips, the image of her filling my mind, the total silence apart from her faint breath. We may have kissed before, but even if this is more a kiss of simple affection than anything, it's a new and pleasant sensation. Judging from her vivid blush as she pulls back, it's obvious she feels the same as I do. Even if we're entirely alone, it still feels a little embarrassing to open up to each other this much. If we take everything day by day, Lily says, I think that would be for the best. Small steps, right? Yeah, I answer, just small steps. We have plenty of time to be together, even after the school year is over. As long as we move together, I think everything will work out okay. Neither of us is going anywhere soon, after all. For now, I'm just thankful for this small moment in time we can spend together. And so the homecoming party arrives, and we're back in Lily and Hanako's room with the two of them and with Akira around the tea table, this time just drinking tea, or in Akira's case, coffee. This particular event has several things unfold. One being we find out that Hanako has joined the newspaper club and is spending time with other people. She's apparently befriended the girl, I think it's Miko or something, or Naomi. Befriended the girl who sits beside her in class and has joined her club with her and is spending a lot of time going to her meetings now. And the discussions and all that I've read, like on the forums and all, where people have been discussing the story, and they talk about the fact that it's a situation where Hisao, the girls' lives continue in every story. They're not just sitting around waiting for Hisao to come up on his white charger and give meaning and purpose to their life. And I think this is one that they're talking about when they say, the five girls have their own lives and all. And in fact, they say one of them life actually improves if he does not date her. Because if you remember, whenever we're dating Hanako, we pretty much are not doing anything. We just continue along with her in that shy, bookworm, very passive lifestyle. In fact, in Hanako's path, Lily talks about that, says that, she's also worried. The whole reason she took us out on the town is because Hanako and Hisao are quite willing to just sit around, introvertedly sit around in the library or in the tea room and never get out and never do anything and never socialize with other people. So she had intended to get us out and make us do something. And then when you get into this, by God, if Hanako isn't going out and doing stuff, so her life is actually better for not having dated him. Another thing that we find out is that Akira is a lawyer, so we find out that she actually works at the legal department of the family company, and that revelation of knowledge leads to Hanako asking how the trip to Scotland was, whether they'd had a good time. And this is the one part of this path I have a difficult time swallowing. Every path has its kind of unusually unrealistic framework or event or dialogue that occurs, and this is one here. It's like, as Hal mentions that, I guess it's been several weeks since she's been back, but I guess we've just been way too busy to do anything with school and classes and our little vacation in Hokkaido, and you have to sit and go, well, the difference is Hanako and Lily see each other every day, spend most of their time together every day, and in fact have a room right next to each other and often have the evenings together drinking tea. So I just find it very hard to believe that Hanako has not at some point in time asked Lilly how her trip went, especially knowing the Hanako we know from the Hanako path, who is very much one of fairness and always being interested in other people. You know, we find out in her path that even though she's very shy and everything else, she definitely wants to be fair and reasonable with her friends. I just get the impression that Hanako, anyway, would have thought that not asking Lily about her trip in a timely fashion would have been the height of rudeness. This leads to Hanako going to bed eventually and leaving the three of them up. Kira asking about their relationship and it being brought out into the open. Hisao basically doing the gentlemanly thing and asking Akira for permission to date her sister, in loco parentis, as it were. And Akira giving a parting shot of telling them to use protection every time. And Lily stating, "We have." Japanese viewpoints on sex are quite different than the viewpoints of Western cultures. They are changing as time goes on, especially attitudes toward sexual relations with the very young. But as far as I know, the age of consent in Japan is still 13, I believe. And sexual relations among, for instance, high schoolers and stuff is not considered to be a unusual fact, unusual way of life whatsoever. And in fact, if you look at the declining Japanese birth rates and the actually increasing amounts of Japanese married couples living in sexless marriages, it may very well be the high schoolers are the only ones that are having sex on a regular basis. And then finally, we get the last little bit of personal information. We find out that Lily is just, along with her old fashioned nature, she's also old fashioned in that she prefers typewriters and braillers. She's just not that good with computers, as she says. Uh, Perhaps very well understood. It is still difficult, and even with text to speech and that sort of thing, navigating computer screens and menus can be something of an issue if you could not see them. So, next time we will see how the relationship continues on here, and we will catch you then.